This is the Airbus A380, the largest passenger aircraft which can carry up to 853 passengers at its peak. It was thought to be the future of aviation, but sadly its production ended in 2021 with just 251 aircraft produced. Not only this, the queen of the skies, the Boeing 747, the production of which started in 1969, is also coming to an end. In the increasing demand in the civil aviation industry, why is this happening? Let's find out. Carca by Hanif Fizul. Facts found out. To understand the fall of the jumbo jets, we must take a deep dive into the history of civil aviation. The first commercial passenger flight took place in St. Petersburg in Florida in 1914. In those days, aviation was slow. Propeller planes would carry few passengers with many stops to refuel. For example, this flight from London to Brisbane stopped at Paris, Brindisi, Cairo, Karachi, Rangoon, Singapore and Darwin before landing in Brisbane. But these propeller engines were not reliable. They would break down often, and so a rule was set, the 60-minute rule. This rule prevented any twin-engine aircraft from flying more than 60 minutes away from a diversion airport. The zones in which these twin-engine aircraft could fly looked like this. This rule, amended by the Federal Aviation Administration, was not applicable for planes with more than 2 engines. Then came the jet age. The first jet, the de Havilland Comet, flew in 1951. Even though this jet faced a few technical issues, the Boeing 707, which was launched in 1957, was successful. This plane with 4 engines could cross the Atlantic, but it was not much fuel efficient as the twin-engine jets. This, along with other factors like the high demand for aviation and congested airports, led to the designing of the Boeing 747, which was released in 1968. It was a huge success. Airlines loved it as it could carry 470 passengers, twice as much as the Boeing 707. This plane could travel further, carry more people, and with 4 engines, it could easily cross the Atlantic in the shortest route. Before this, airlines would use smaller twin jets in an inefficient routing through Greenland, or use quad jets or jets with 4 engines like the 707, which consumed much more fuel. Thus, the 747 was a success. This created a model of flying called hub and spoke. Airlines would use small planes from regional and small airports to gather passengers to a hub like New York, which is a big airport, and then fly the 747 to another hub like London or Paris, from where the passengers connect to regional planes. This was then the most advantageous way, as people in small cities could go to your destination with a 2-stop connection, and for people in big cities, they had flights to much more hubs. Before the emergence of the hub and spoke model, the airlines would stop in many cities to board and let off passengers. This meant that the flights would have many stops. Compared to this, the hub and spoke model was a better option, and the airlines quickly changed. Following the rise of the 747, Airbus started planning its A380 program in the late 1980s. And was finally produced in 2005. Meanwhile, the emergence of jets in the 1950s led to a more reliable engine and less engine failures compared to the piston-powered engines in propeller planes. Jet engines failed 125 times lesser than propeller ones. This forced the FAA to introduce a new concept called ETOPS, or Extended Range Twin Operations Approval. This allowed jet airlines with just 2 engines to fly a solid 120 minutes from a diversion airport with certain conditions considering their reliability. This was first granted to the Trans World Airlines with its flight from Boston to Paris on a twin-engine Boeing 767. This happened in 1985, that is, after the start of A380's planning phase. In 1988, ETOPS was extended to 180 minutes, which meant that airplanes could now fly 180 minutes from a diversion airport. This covers about 95% of the Earth's surface as shown here. Airlines which boasted the hub and spoke model wanted a new type of flying, the point-to-point flying. This meant that airlines would fly directly from smaller airports to other smaller airports. This was preferred by passengers as it saved much time. For airlines, they could fly their small but efficient twin jets in routes with fewer demand. With ETOPS, small routes across the Atlantic was feasible with less fuel burnt by only using two engines. This made Boeing launch jets like the 777 and the 787, the latter being made of composite materials which reduces its weights and gives more efficiency. They too were a success, but Airbus still thought of the hub and spoke model and continued to produce the A380. It was launched with Singapore Airlines. Many airlines bought the A380, but Emirates was its largest customer. About half of the built A380s or 119 planes were sold to Emirates. However, the market started to focus on more fuel-efficient planes like the 787 as fuel prices peaked in the 2010s. The A380 burns 25% more fuel than the 787 per kilometer flown. In the pandemic, fuel prices rose again and the demand decreased, which made airlines sell their A380s or send them to storage. In 2021, Airbus stopped the production of A380s, with Emirates reducing its orders and no black clocks left. It is also important to mention that Airbus started the production of its fuel-efficient aircraft, the A350, in 2016. This, like the 787, is made of composite materials, thus having a lesser weight and being more efficient. This is the largest plane being produced by Airbus currently. The Airbus A321XLR is also being developed with a narrow body with a capacity of 200 seats but gives a range of more than 8,000 kilometers. These developments show that the future of flying is with small, long-range, fuel-efficient planes for point-to-point services. Thank you. Carca by Hanif Fizul. Facts found out.